liberated from the bounds of real and unreal, transcending the names and attributes of arising, conceptions and abiding, coming and going, affirmations and denounce. The supreme mandala is the nature's state. By offering it, may we be blessed to attain the state of Buddhahood. Guru Deva Dakini Ratna Mandala Pratija Swaha.
Sanje Chodan Choji Chona Lai Chanchu Pardo Dane Jabsuenchi Dagi Jinsu Jibi Sunam Je Dola Penjira Sanje Dumbar Sho Sanje Chodan Choji Chonam Chanchu Pardo Dane Jabsuenchi Dagi Jinsu Jibi Sonam Je Dola Penjira Sanje Dumbar Sho.
Until awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings.
Maya Namka Danyambe Semjen Tamje Deva Dan Devi Judan Dembra Jurunje Dunga Dan Dunga Je Judan Trevor Jurus Dunga Mebe Deva Tamandra Juruje Nyeren Chada Nyedan Tarve Danyamla Nebra Jurunje Maya Namka Danyam Simjen Damje Deva Dan Deve Juda Dembra Juruje Dunga Dan Dunga Je Juda Trevora Juruje Dunga Mebe Deva Mindra Vara Juruje Nyeren Chada Tarve Danyamla Nebra Juruje.
May all mothers sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from suffering. May they, which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
Chanze Wadan Jujen Shabatan Jisu Yeran Gujin Surwa Yen Gewai Junze Dagi Jesam
刚刚已经念过皈依发心文了。那诸佛正法圣众会直至菩提，我皈依，我以布施诸功德，为利有情，愿成佛。愿一切众生俱乐极乐于，愿一切众生离苦集苦因，愿众生不离无苦之妙德，愿永离爱憎常住平等舍，其之供养。顶礼以及供养忏悔语，随喜功德敦请其诸事，凡诸些为善业我之一句，终为圆满菩提而回向，共曼达。香水涂饰，花朵铺满地，圣山四周，日月为庄严。愿念佛刹以作供养故，愿诸众生受用清净土。景象三身圆满上师众，外内密三真如以供养，无生之具万物悉受以无上殊胜成就其之余。Om Guru Deva Dagini Radha Mandala Patija Soha。请转法轮。 一切众生之事会根其不同而见之，共
Please
与不
stand the
共，大
real
小
of
乘，
Dharma
其情
of the
因情
greater
转
and
法
lesser
的。
vehicles, and the teachings come unto both according to the disposition and mental capacities of sentient beings. As stated, like last time, like whatever the teachings, whether it is sutra or whether it's tantra or mantra, and for the practice, in order to, we have to become, it's very important to become a real Buddhist. And in order to become a Buddhist, we have to practice the refuge. And moreover, in order to become a greater vehicle, we have to have a kind of the greater motivation, and also to have a practice of the Tantrayana. We have to have the practice of purity. And so whatever the practice it is, it has to be related with all these kind of requirements. And also like just having the promise to practice doesn't make us like kind of greater vehicle unless we really practice it. And just having just by reading it doesn't make us, or just by staying at the temple doesn't make us a greater vehicle, or the higher level of practice. Whether we are listening to the gongchik, or whether we are teaching the gongchik, listening to it, or practice it, unless we have the motivation of the greater vehicle, it is not considered as the greater vehicle. So therefore, for the first and foremost, it's very important is to have a motivation of the greater vehicle, that is to take into consideration or to aspire that I'm listening to this teaching in order to benefit all other sentient beings, for that to attain the Buddhahood. So this kind of concept and motivation and listening to the teaching lesson.
就像之前我们讲到过，无论如何，我们在接受任何的法教，经教也好，密续也好，如果说我们讲说自己是一个纯正的一个佛教徒的话，我们首先要先归心归一，发心归一。那如果我们是大乘的行者，要发大乘心；密续的行者的话，就要行一切的静观。那么首先要有这样子的一个条件。那如果说我们今天只是修法的话，不能说我们变成大乘的行者，那么我们必须要如实的修行才对的。在这个寺庙中的修行也不见得可以让我们有更好的成就。在我们听任何的佛法，包括今天讲的正法一意来讲，除非我们发大乘心，就不能修大乘。所以呢，在我们听法之前，我们应该要有好好的发心，为了利益一切有情如母众生，我再来能够得到解脱。我今天来这边听这个佛法。
레베차게 개와지 제바이나야 디 개와데 톱충충지 차루레스 논출지 제바이나야 디 논출 톱첨부지 차루레스 디 인두자네 디무 마릭바 미시바 세야데 빼지 뇨다 차고 전 첨부지레스 디지두자네 드네 시럽단 데베 토네 드네지 냠레나 슈야당 시럽단 데와지 네바도 되는 거래스 대마도 대무바테게 다 풍야 참아 뒤에 되는 풍로래스 대송발에
So like we have now the last three vital points of individual liberation, the verses number 18, 19, and 20. So in order to practice, whatever the practice it is, for example, if it is like a kind of the lower practice, or the middle scope practice, or the higher scope practice, whatever it is, it has to be related with the perfect wisdom. If it is not conjoined with the wisdom, or it's not union with the wisdom, doesn't matter how well you try to do that. You can only achieve little benefits, but somehow it is possible that you will, without having the wisdom, and if you make a like kind of mistake, then you're bound to make a grave mistake, big mistake. So therefore, the perfect wisdom is required. It's accurate here to do whatever the practice. So without having the wisdom, what happens is whatever we try to do, we are bound to mess up. We are bound to make a mistake. So therefore, it is very important to have a very perfect wisdom to practice.
那接下来我们讲这个别解脱这个要义的这个后面的几个偈，18、19、20最后3个偈，就是不至于痴罪过无更甚，畜生愚痴深重故低下，不受戒之罪更衰神。那么无论我们在这个做任何的修行，不管是下乘、中乘或无上乘的一个修持呢，我们最主要的要先把它跟智慧能够结合。如果说不能跟智慧结合的话，那么就不能得到圆满的这个证悟，只是能够得到一点点这个利益而没有智慧。这样子的话，如果说我们在过程当中有了一些过患的话，这容易变成有很大的一个错误跟过患。所以呢，在我们要能够有这个圆满的智慧是很重要的，要不然就一定在这个过程当中很容易就会出错误。
pena karirasna ngansundi shinkenang la tene sabun ji tamne ti sabun de la nyuguji mingu yuna tugu ruwa nyugu tele ya sabun tele ya de nyuguji jegu yuna tude ngi partu gu re yina ya tude khandiji gu yore sna lamba den de tuji gu yore ruwa ya chugun mi badan de ge tuji gu yore ma do be lamba zawane mebe tuji yoswa yina 대기 사본의 책로래 누구 제투 말에 대인도 전에 야 그 되게 구구열의 개침버리대 되게 름받은 데와 지금 매송하이나 상원 돌아동도와 난신도 되니 시랍서야 대양 되니 지금에 대받은 데에 시랍지 대난신도 닝지단 데에 시랍지 쇠받은 데에 시랍지고 되지 구구열사래 대인도 전에 또 되게 시랍대 배 개침버리스 대송발에
And also, it's very important to take into consideration that when we talk about the need of the wisdom, actually, when we talk about the wisdom, there are two different kinds of wisdom. One is the very highest level of wisdom, and one we talk about the general understanding of the wisdom and so forth. And like when you talk about the wisdom alone is not really beneficial sometimes. Like, for example, if we have been like, if the wisdom is devoid of the empty kind of, the compassion, and the wisdom is devoid of the patience, then it's sometimes not really considered as the beneficial. For example, if we are sowing the seed in the field, for example, the heat is required, but somehow the wetness or the moisture also needed there. If the wetness and the moisture are not there, then what happens is this heat will burn down the seed. Actually, the heat, the heat is required there, but at the same time, the moisture, the wetness also required together. In the same way that our wisdom should be accompanied by the patience, accompanied by compassion. This is required. Otherwise, sometimes without having compassion and patience, we are not sure whether this wisdom is going to do good thing or it's going to do bad thing. So therefore, it is required.
那么，此外，很重要的是，我们要有这个一个智慧。我们在这个过程当中需要有这个智慧。那么，所谓的这个智慧呢，我们一般来讲有2种层次的智慧。 很高的出世制或者是一般的世俗的世间制。那么有的时候我们光有智慧是没有太大的帮助的。如果我们光有智慧而没有跟悲心结合，没有安忍之心的话，就不是太有帮助。比如说我们种下一个种子，那要种子要能够发芽生长，必须要有暖热，除此之外还必须有水分的湿气。要不然的话，光有热而没有水分的湿气的话，它就容易烧焦。所以又必须两者都要同时有，才能够有所成就。所以同样的，智慧必须跟悲心结合，再加上安忍之心。要不然的话，我们不知道光有智慧是一個好事还是不是好事。
오늘이 준생 신경 드네 랑도르 모 신경 드네 시럽 유배기 매지기 딱은 내가 너를 용쓰기로 하는 건 그거 토마메 봤네 곧 내가 너를 장장 검지 배수치 못 해송아래 띵도 전에 람상 먼저 삼로 너를 매와야 차투 말에 시럽 유배점지 내가 독자야 매지와 람상 차투 말와 띵도 시럽 유행이 매지기 내가 너를 제발
接下来的菩提心要义品，先念前面几个寄送好的。菩提心与慈悲为互异，菩提萨埵戒许为有依。凡夫众生亦生行心戒，各种皆可成为行心戒。无烦恼者无堕罪可成，无有罪过不为，不说为恶业。善巧行持则无有恶业，有时自他相换亦成罪。伤害菩萨与安乐无缘，善与恶之果报分别生。菩提心者无有妄无，有失三类障者，烦恼障是一。一切实成圣义谛所障，声闻意见实相之一面，六地以下声闻不觉通，为是七地许之为现观，无法果于八地。方现前以一了证，至无余地道，登地生功德法有六类，极道果及恶之两双运，一切高低依田甚深觉，菩萨保存为劫之方便所积轮孽诸善回善根，一回善根于佛法上师。
The voice of verses 18, not knowing or delusion is heavier than other faults. What it means is that usually when we have a wisdom, then there is a difference between who knows it, who has the wisdom, and who don't have the wisdom. For example, the Vasubandhu, he stated in his commentary that if you have 1 kilo of the iron, if you put together all iron together like a ball, and if you throw in the ocean, it will go deep down in the surface or below deep in this sub ocean, in the deep down to the ocean. But somehow if you make like a container, open container with that iron, then it will not go down, it will rather float on the surface of the ocean. So actually it's the same thing, the 1 kg of the iron, but somehow if you put together and make like a ball, then if you throw in the ocean, it goes down. And if you make it like a kind of plate or container, then if you put on the ocean, then it floats. In the same way, if people, the people who know, it is not possible that, he cannot make mistakes. He may make mistakes, but somehow they were able to understand, able to realize that their mistakes within a day or like hour or some few days. But on the other hand, if the foolish people, who are ignorant people, or who doesn't have the wisdom, if he commits mistake, then it goes on like hour by hour, day by day, then weeks by week, month by month, and year, so on. And even if there is somebody who can explain to him, this is mistake, you should not do that. But this person would never come to the conclusion and try to understand or accept that this is the mistake. So in the same way, here the verses 18 talks exactly the same thing here. That's all.
那么第18计不知愚痴罪过无更甚。那这边讲到说我们要有这种智慧，在修行的过程中必须要有智慧。那在过去呢，巴苏巴豆曾经在他的论著里面有讲到说，同样的1公斤的铁呢，如果你把这个1公斤的铁放在一起呢，把它丢到海里面，那它这个铁就会沉到海底的深处。可是呢，如果你这个铁用容器把它装起来，它或许会在海上漂流而不会沉下去。所以这2种例子来讲呢，它们的重量都是一样，都是1公斤的铁，但是你外面有没有容器把它承载着，它结果就会不一样的。那么我们要知道说我们这个修行有没有智慧呢，跟结果是有很大的关联性的。如果说我们有一些智慧的话，即使我们犯错了，可能在几个小时、1天之内或几天之内就会自己会发现自己犯了过错。可是如果是一个非常无知的人呢，即使他犯错了，不管多少时日过去，他可能不知道自己犯错，甚至当别人跟他解释说你已经犯了错误了，这个人或许不会明了，或甚至会不会接受说自己犯错的这个事实。这是第18计，不知愚痴罪过无更甚。
이나양 빵야 레라요래 두 송면에 시당 빵라 송버 산지기 도에나라 시당 빵라스 니바 침보레 데 이나 빵 레라오레스 에는 되차서야 돼 니바 띠스 총말에 지단 되차 차바서야 돼 고지 이제는 그 제외기 로직으로 준tum보 자야 그 주직 자유요래 대인도 전에 시당 나신기 지 란데신 람산 추로동에다 네바쇼 침보 칭긴데 지금 말해 때 지단기 그 녀몽바 인도산에 네바지 용거와 딘두 너차서야 돼 니바데에서 총원요레스 니나 빵야 갈래 가버리다 너차 차바데 빵 갈래 카와레 시당래 다 때모기 톨레도 산제 가르 송바스나 빵야 갈래 가버레 니바야 침보레 송바레 딘두산에 다 단진 지된 송원기 저 독송문안에 때모기 니바 치기레스나 송바르와 단 단단디 돌송 쭈구바데기 제부토는 상당한 거요다. 남주 남주 가르삼교에서는 녀와서야 돼 신앙 사오지. 녀외게 내술지 시에운도 전에 먼저 배 직자 슈침부지야 유대반도 거지. 서로 배 슈침부 땡게지로와. 대난신 이다 들띠 스타한다고 상당한 그래. 돈돈도 지금 때스 기본으로 상당히로와. 내성 숨은 돈도 때스 기본으로 임바 상당한 그래. 대난 사버도 지지에게 되는지 메톤도 다부 잠나에게 던로기린다고 지나 파타도 전에 배지보다 칼라야고 토그레 최대야고 용그레 대인도 되는지 하고 강다른 추 변나 자다 다 바위라서 벌이 치든도단 대마와 치다다 디 스타한다고 지서 렉도와 단 제대 성공기 두수 정부 지라 상무당 뉴송거래 단대기 갑라 년송 벤나 나탄다 녀와라 제대바당 나탄다 튼둘라 제대바 니체나 디갑게 추로 동행도 지나 배쟁가 튼둘라 제베기 추로 동행 디수 총인 거래 얘는 두수 정부로 상무당이나 나탄다 튼둘라 제대반 디갑라 네 개와두싱 말에 네 디바방싱 말에 네 가세기 개와 디바 두그레 네 가세기 내가 넘치기로와 텔테네 마음발랑 내송의 양능도 제도에 네가 슈 채와 용기로 던도된 근데 인자 내송 숨게 나네 내갑도 상무당이나 던도데 오 산다고 요래때 얘나야 푹 타랑 불러서는 당와이나 돈저데 쪼르쪼르 두루두루 줘야게 내탕지레스 가인사는 디목슈 치쇼도 돈저로와 스테송거다 도송 주고바데게 된디 도송 좁제데 주고니보디 저단 제고토는 데와 슈침보 이데바다는 지레
The Vajra
第
verses
19计
19,
畜生愚
since
痴
the
深重故
animals
低
are
下
greatly deluded, such a birth is inferior. So here, what it talks about is when it talked about the ignorant, it talks about in the terms of the causes. And when it talks about the animals are greatly deluded, it talks about in terms of the consequences. Usually, for example, there are 3 different kinds of poisons. We have ignorant, attachment, and hatred. In the Buddha has stated in the sutra, like 3 causes problem. So usually, like we say that the anger is one, the poisons which makes a great mistake. But usually anger are a little bit easier to abandon compared to the like attachment and ignorance. And attachment, like kind of, usually it will not affect instantly, but at the same time, slowly, it can also affect and give a problem to one another. And it is a little bit difficult to abandon. And compared to the ignorant, it is much easier. But what Jiten Sungmin said is the ignorant is a very grave mistake, difficult to abandon, and also it makes a grave mistakes, and it gives us a great suffering and problem. So if you look at the problems of the like kind of the hell beings, the hungry ghost, and animals. So when you look like this, the hungry ghost looks better than the hell beings, and whereas the animal beings looks better than the hungry ghost. Because, for example, see, these days we can also observe, we can also witness that some foreigners, they keep the dogs and they take care of the dog, and from this point it seems to be even being a like kind of animals or animal beings seems better compared to other lifestyle and lifestyle of the hungry ghost and the like kind of the hell beings. But Jiten Sungmin stated that for the just for temporarily, these are temporary. But if you look for the far-sighted, or to have a far sight, or to look for the far distance, being born as an animal or ignorant being ignorant is one of the ultimately grave mistakes. Because what happens once you're being born as an animal, then you make a lot of mistakes unknowingly, because you don't know what is right and what is wrong. So therefore, you commit a lot of mistakes, which could lead you to a grave mistake and to the countless consequences of problem. So therefore, like the 19 talks about depending upon the 18 Vajra verses, and these 19 Vajra verses have a relation to each other, the causal relation.
那么接下来讲到第19计，那19计跟第18计是有关联的。那么在这边提到的无明，那因为无明，那才会当受生为畜生道的众生，然后内心也是颠倒的。当我们一般讲到三毒贪嗔痴三毒的时候，那释迦牟尼佛在过去佛经里面提到说，我们三毒贪嗔痴三毒会造成不同的过患。 那么嗔心呢，会造成一个蛮大的、很严重、立即的这个结果。但是嗔心是容易去除的，相对于贪心跟痴心而言是这样子的。那么贪心或许不会有立刻的结果后果，但是会导致它其他的问题。但是比起无明来讲呢，贪执又容易对治一些。那吉天松公主是指出来无明是最难去除的，却会造成很大的问题。一般我们认为地狱道的众生受苦是最严重的，然后再来是恶鬼道，再来是畜生道。那么但是比如说畜生道的举一个例子呢，狗来讲呢，它可能是人家里的宠物，过得蛮好的，所以一般人我们会认为说畜生道的众生会比较比地狱道的众生来得好。但是吉天松公主是说这种现象不过只是暂时的现象，所谓的好坏。如果说从长远的角度来看，最大的过患是来自于无明的，因为有了无明，我们不知道什么是对，什么是错，而导致了无数多的问题在这个过程当中发生，引起很多严重的结果。所以这个吉天松公主是提出来说，无明是最大的过患。所以这个跟第18计也有关联的。那18、19计同时念一次，不知愚痴罪过无更甚，畜生愚痴深重故低下。那第20计是不受戒之罪更甚衰损。
nomba shu ne song ma to par nyam song le nomba tawa ne ma shu wa ni de kar du res na nomba ma shu wa du res o te song bare tin du ngam son dik sik de te snya sam konor the yan ka do wa on ji de song ge tane nomba nyam na non chen yo mare ele nomba ma to no du res ya ten de shi yong se wa te song be mar ta da nomba nyam na chen yo re 산적인 도에는 숨바 난신기 중요해. 산적이 상하게 나는 숨바 난신기 중요해. 또 냠바이나 변론주 첨부래. 디바 첨부래. 니바 첨부래. 이나양 마토빠기 논출 대당 냠 폼네 냠살베게 논출니고데 지금 아주 두수릉부 지가 파산노 땅송아이나 가립 도여르스나 근데 마토빠데 도여레스 텐두 지텐송고 곤치게 송도도 지 대처 단다라는 산노 땅고야 요 말에 북장릉보 장릉보라 산노 땅고래 찹침보라 산노 땅고래 뭐 텐두 전에 냠로 마토 니바 체와서 되지고 도는 데시 자고 서래 대마도 냠는 니바 요 말에서 깨져대 말에 냠는 니바 요래 산지가 송번 나신 요래
Now the Vajra verse is 20. Jiten Sungyen maintains that it is a greater fault to not obtain the vows than to damage the vow, damage them. So what it means is usually we have a general understanding that when we take a vows and we cannot observe it, preserve it, then if you for example, for sutra, we can say you can break down the vows, or if you like bodhisattva vows says also you break down the vows, whereas in the mantrayana we say you are downfalls. You got the downfall, means you break the vows, a different kind of saying. Whatever, whether it is individual vows, bodhisattva vows, or mantrayana vows, whatever, we have a feeling that if you receive the vows, but if you cannot practice it or protect it, then there's a big mistakes or great mistake. And it's also stated in the sutra by the Buddha. And therefore, we have a feeling that rather not to take it, just by having it and you break it, it's better not to take it at all. It's better not to take it at all. So But what the Jiddu Sungmin said is that, like, rather than having, rather than like breaking the vows and not having the, if you are comparing these two things, you take the vows and you break it, or you don't have it at all. What the Jiddu Sungmin said is, it's better to have the vows and you break it, and have it rather than not having it at all. So therefore, sometimes people make misunderstanding here. So here, when you break the vows, Lord Jigten Sungmin doesn't mean that there's no fault at all. You have a fault, you have a downfalls, according to the text that has been stated. But what the Lord Jigten Sungmin means here is that he's looking for a very far distance, far-sighted. So therefore, what he said is, like, kind of, it's better to have and break the vows than to not to have at all. So that means what Jigten Sungmin stress here is that, like, for in the 20 verses, it is a greater fault to not obtain the vows than to damage them.
在第20集这边讲到是说，不受戒是罪更甚衰损。那这边吉田众公祖师讲的是说，一般跟一般人的看法不一样。当他是指出说，当我们不受戒的过患是比受了戒而犯戒的过患是更加的严重的。一般人认为说，如果说因为受戒后来犯戒的这样不太好，那不如不要去受戒。不管是说从解脱戒或者是菩萨戒的角度来讲，我们受戒了有了过犯的话，过错的话，我们讲说是犯戒。那密咒称的戒呢，我们通常如果说你有所违犯的话，我们是讲有所过犯，而不是讲说犯戒。那如果受了戒不能持戒呢，这是有过错的过犯的。但是如果我们以为这样子是不好的，而最好就不要去受戒的话，那么这个从吉田颂公祖师的角度来讲说，不要因为怕破戒而不受戒，最好是受戒，然后即使你有所违犯了，这都比你完全不受戒来的好，因为他并不是说当你受戒有犯戒是没有过犯的，而是说从长远的角度来讲呢，那个无戒不是受戒的过犯是远大于这个受戒而犯戒的。
내당 배조로 산이 지소나라 코란이 지 레가지 제고에나 거기를 자원이는 좀 많은 게 지소나라 자원 좀 많은 게 되게 다 강이 진심 말고 배치 나공랑 그래 계시변은 거기를 손에 이제 만트네 그 단송 면도지네요 그 지소는 내가 지는 데서 하 공견도지 차이도 이젠다 파야 돼 상주 가와요 제 현실지방 상주 대변하지 부의 상주랜도에 얘는 부모 상주랜도 그 다 현실이 차도요고 티인도 전에 베티나신 치료자는 단단 직된 송공기 아니 마토파데 니바 침보레 손에 대송들 간나 돈바지 쉬와 있나 딱 거기 야나 니마 야나 다와 야나 로카시지 고송여와 송연도 전에 대단 튼베기 쿠줄라 개베 박차 상부지 샤차르데 디 개베 박차 상부도 라한로 말해 되기 마음발 땡땡 박차데 젠jel은 태연도 전에 드려야지 랑가 양다고 지를 레야기 주진 차투고로 딱 계속 바차 텐데 주는 야 매와이나 근데 주진 테 마트 계좌 매와 차는고로 텐데 인도잖아요 그냥 양을 마트 니와 채와서 야 텐데 지금도 숨고 있어래
Now, for example, is like this. If you talk about in the Himalayan society, suppose there is a two boy who goes to the school and somehow fail the exam, and one who has never been to the school. So usually what we regard is that the one who have been to the school and have failed the exam, we usually we take it as a bad guy, or not a good student because he failed. But if we think carefully, it is better to go and fail in the school than not to go at all to school. So it's better than the one who have never been to school. It's better to go to the school and fail. It's better. Why? Because even if he failed from the school, he would able to do, for example, write his address, or he can even count the number from 1 to 100, and he can do something for the society. If he works in the society, he could at least do something better than who has never been to school. For example, the person who has never been to school does not know how to hold the pen also, and like the one who have been to the school could actually know how to find out his kind of a toilet, whether this is the ladies or gent or ladies. He could able to figure out because of having that small knowledge. So in the same way, what Lord Jigten Sungmin stated is that if you receive the vow, somehow you've broken the vow. But you have to look that, for example, if he has observed the vow for some days, or some month, or some years, and during that period, he has had a very good imprint in his mindset or in the mind stream, so which in the near future could come up, arise, and when it meets with the causes and conditions, it could give you rise in a very novel things or to do for the fortunate ones. But if you don't have this kind of link, if you don't have the link, if you never receive the vows, then you don't have link at all. You have no link at all. So what happened is, and it's not sure that even if you meet with the causes and condition, but if you have no link, then you're not going to make any kind of progress. So therefore, what Jigten Sungmin stated is that even if you receive the vows and even if you're broken, but somehow in a far future, if you meet with something good causes and condition, then this virtuous action that you have been accumulated for a certain time or duration could act as better for your progress, better for your development, and so forth. That's all.
举个例子来讲，在我们藏人这个喜马拉雅这个社区里面呢，如果说2个男孩子今天一天去上学了，但是考试没考过，或者是说第2个男孩子他完全都没有去学校念书，那一般我们认为就说一个去念书上学，然后考试没有考过的，没有及格不及格的学生呢，不是一个很好的学生。但是他比起从来没有去学校念书的人的那个男孩子，另外一个男孩子来讲还是好的，因为即使他没有及格，但是他还可以写地址啊，可以数数啊，从1到100啊，他还是可以为社会做出一些些许贡献的。那没有上学的这个男孩子，或许连笔都不会拿，或者是到了这个洗手间的时候没有办法分辨男女厕所，所以他看不懂上面的字等等。所以依吉天松公祖师的讲法呢，如果他今天受戒和破戒，那起码在他持戒的那个几天，或者是那个几个月，在那个期间受制的期间呢，心事是清净的，所以在这未来如果因缘成熟的话，他也可以受生到善趣有善身，要不然呢，即使将来因缘成熟，也没有这个因，就没有这个种子，也无法连结。 故受戒
vital
的善
points
行
of
在未来
the individual
因缘成
liberation.
熟的时
And
候
now we are
会比
going to
较
the
好的结
vital
果
point of Bodhisattva vows. And the first Vajra verses, bodhicitta and compassion are different. So why he made this statement is that because usually we have a confusion that usually when people say that he is a very compassionate person, means that we take this person as the one who has the bodhicitta. And what the Jiten Sungin differentiate here is that just by having the compassion, the greater compassion, doesn't make you bodhicitta, make you a bodhisattva. Why? Because this greater compassion must, in order to have that greater compassion, it is not necessary even to become like a Buddhist. Non-Buddhist persons or people also have that greater compassion. Even the like Shravakayanas, they have the greater compassion. And even for the like animals, they also have the like greater compassion. But it doesn't mean that they are the kind of the bodhisattva. So therefore, what Jiten Sungin said is like, just by having the greater compassion doesn't mean that you are bodhisattvas.
那所以呢，到这边我们算是说在这个别解脱这个部分已经讲完了，接下来讲菩提心第4部分第4要品。在这边第1季讲到菩提心与慈悲为互异，这边意思是说菩提心跟我们所谓的慈悲心是不一样的。通常我们讲说这个人很慈悲，他是有一个悲心的人，那一般人世人会认为说这个就是他很有菩提心。但是居天颂公主指出来说，我们有一个悲心的人，并不是说算一个菩提心的人，他也不是在这个不是一个菩萨。因为什么呢？悲心或大悲心不是佛教徒的必要条件。以声闻圣来讲，声闻的行者或圣者还是有悲心的，那出生道的众生也是可能会有悲心的，所以光有悲心是不够的。
근데 되게 흥라 아니 흰지 양다고 줄을 제토가 지구레스 대체도 지단 만족변하지 다 전주성비 주세인데 전에 당부 선천 탐제 마임버 셴바 다 조제기 송난 신체나 선천 탐제 마임버 셴바 마당 파다 가리나야 근데 임바 셴바 근데 선천 탐제데 까디 배 친구 임바 셴바 니바데 근데 숨바데 근데게 까딘 친구들라 네바 트렌 자기 삼백 삼바제고바 숨바 근데 트렌 자출 때야 가대체는 자고 그래서나 근데 단단 디고로와 칼세 잠베게 셈 그러와 대화지 톰나 삼바 심제 탐제의 대화 톰되거든요 잠베게 셈 근데 심제 탐제의 동해 전도게더니 닝지게 셈 텐도지를 때네 근데 자주게 셈세야 제물에 송도와 다 준대 맹아 나야 세레 준대 맹아 너야 송그래 된데서 다다나 다 나도 차서 당보 선천 탐제 파마 임버 셴바 니바 가딘 쳔보 임바 삼바 근데 숨바 가딘 트렌 제기 삼바 근데 예바데 잠바 나바데 닝제 근데 삼삼 준대 맹아 드인라는데 산에 근데 닝제기 지라 확삼세야 송은 거여와 근데 장주게 셈스는 드인데 저기도와 나시바이나 근데 닝제 닝제라 때네 근데 장주게 셈스데 송은 거여와 어디인도 강다량 근데 닝제서야 돼 장주성이 저던데 자대요레스 데모도야지 닝제다 장주성이 보디 지보이만 하지 선방이가 말해서 대송 말다
So when we talk about the bodhicitta and compassion are different, here we should think about like two things. One is what we have stated, and now another one is that when we talk about these things, when we talk about the bodhicitta of the greater vehicle. So for example, like it is stated by the Dipankaratisha, through in terms of like 7 different kind of the cause and condition of causal relationship of the compassions. So in order to have a very like kind of a perfect compassion, and this perfect compassion is kind of the causes for the like a bodhicitta, which is like consequences for that. And the first and foremost is like, for example, we have to know, you have to recognize that all mother sentient beings as our mother. And the second one is like, we should realize, or we should know how kind they are. So how, like kind, and how they are helpful, and how they have taken care for us. And the third one is to how to repay their kindness. And the fourth one is the loving kindness and compassion. The loving kindness in the sense, may they can attain like kind of have a happiness, or then thereafter it comes like a compassion, the greater compassion. That means then how may they can be free from the suffering. And usually there comes a 5 set of the 5 set, or sometimes you can also take it into the like kind of the 7 set. That means like after like kind of the compassion, then you can add the like wishes to accomplish, for wishes to help, or wishes to bring benefit other sentient beings. And then finally there comes the bodhicitta. Then there it comes like a 7, or sometimes it is counted as a 5. So when you count the 5, then means like up to the greater compassions. So this is how it was counted into the 7 different kind of sets of how the bodhicitta and the greater compassions are not the same but different in the sequence of the causes and the consequences.
当我们讲到说悲心不等于是菩提心的时候，我们之前已经讲到说这个悲心不是大乘行者不是佛教徒的必要条件。第二个部分来讲呢，讲到说菩提心是一个大乘行者一个必须具备的一个条件。再根据过去阿底峡尊者所讲的悲心的7要件里面讲到，我们要有一个圆满的这个悲心的生出，那它是一个菩提心的这个因子，后来发展的，慢慢能够发展成为菩提心的。那有一个圆满的悲心的话，有7个要件。第一个就是要了解到一切的众生过去曾经为佛母。第二个要件就是知道他们过去是如此的慈爱我们，如此的帮忙照顾我们。第3个呢，就是我们要升起一个心意，要回报他们的这个慈爱心。第4个就是升起了慈悲心，愿意他们能够离苦得乐。接下来有2种说法，第一种是5要件的，就是第5个就是想要帮助他们，发这个愿要帮助他们，为利众生，然后愿自己得成就。那有一种7个部分的7要件的，就是继续讲到菩提心。那因为有一个菩提心而发出了真诚的这个悲心的这个7个要件的大悲心。那无论5个要件或7个要件呢，我们在这边指出菩提心跟大悲心是2个是有差别的，那他们的结果也是会有所不同的。
tene tachidang genyengi domba sayatala nangsengi mangbore tena nangso jamru domba shudu zane tela tene japsum zimbe genyengi domba sayat jamru domba tenya genyengi domba yewa chigre tene yang chi Pangja nega chig zum pangin tende na chig sum genyin se ya tende yore tene yang so jeba tang ma jem melen ba ni la so ba tende pangin de la nanga jube genyin se yore tene yang ji so jeba yang pang ma jem melen ba yang pang lo yim yang pang ta lo yim de bena ji so so ge tene chuma ma yin pa la so so ge chowa ma yin pa la pa ta ji 로버인 받다고 되세요와 텐데 빵 디가나 되네 창라서 빵 텐데 지라 용조게니 세기로와 다야 대장 맛에 소주바다 마진발렘바다 되네 로임 지부 많이 봐 맞장와 주바 차상빵 된게 텐데 용조를 게니 텐데 요래 텐디 창주게니 세야다 텐데 게니 예와 망보요와 디 유도 전에 지든 송부 가르 송부에서나 주라더니 찬주선배 돈바지 쇼구요나 많다라 jamru domba nibardu yuwaji gures japsum zimbe gening dombaji medu murongwares te mebaina chanju sumbe domba toktu mare sumbarde dela pyogen keba kashege sayindu zane jigita umada samzambasna ya tendegi yawashigre pena umelula chanju sum domba tegar shuchogres sotar gu mare sayando de sungrede jiden sungungi umada samzangi kecha yo mare chanju sumbe dombaji shugu yona kesi sta shugu mena nesu khagarwa kesi shugu yona mantala jamru ngebardo mondon rogures jamru mondon rotsawayina tene sotar gdomba ko jula yewaji chatu yorowas japsum zembe gening domba chatu gure sumbar o tende indu zane tene dandandene chanju sembe domba te ten sotar gunken shigres sotar mewala 장동 찌기 말에 제 대송하다.
The virtual verses, second virtual verses talks about Jiten Sungyen maintains that the Bodhisattva vows have a foundation. So why he stated that is that usually we have a feeling like we have a feelings that sometimes what happens is when we are taking the Bodhisattva vows, there are two different kind of Bodhisattva vows. That's one is the conventional Bodhisattva vows and ultimate Bodhisattva vows. But usually we think that without taking the individual vows, we can straight go and take the Bodhisattva vows. And we think it is kind of compatible to us, how we can practice. But whereas Lord Jiten Sungyen stated that in order to receive the Bodhisattva vows, you have to have the individual vows first. For example, it is not necessary to have the monk vows or monk novice vows, but you should have to have at least a lay novice vows. Even if you don't have that lay novice vows, you should have to have at least the vows of the three refuge, who hold the three refuge. And sometimes they have been saying single vows. Sometimes we have say some vows, for example, sometimes people take just one vows, and sometimes they take two or three, then some vows who observe that. And sometimes we have been saying that people who practice not killing, not stealing, and not doing sexual misconduct, not drinking wine, and also at the same time, just the sexual misconduct. They don't do that at all. So this is known as the absolute practitioners. But however, whatever it is, if you were to receive the Bodhisattva vows, doesn't matter. You have to have at least the vows of the individual vows, and also at least you have to have the three refuge, the vow of three refuge. Usually, sometimes there are some scholars, they talk about the vows in terms of the Madhyamika, or sometimes they talk about in terms of the Chittamatra. But whatever it is, Lord Jiten Sungyen stated that if you were to receive the vow, you have to have the individual vows, and particularly, at least, you have to have at least the three refuge, that is the three refuge vows. Otherwise, that is not possible. Therefore, maintain the Bodhisattva vows have to have the foundation of these three vows.
那么第二季讲的是菩提萨埵或许为有依。那吉田松公主师在这边提到的是菩萨戒的基础。那为什么他这么说呢？当我们一般受菩萨戒的时候，一般会讲说世俗的菩萨戒或者是圣意的菩萨戒。那一些人会认为说，你不一定要受别解脱戒就可以直接受菩萨戒，但是吉田松公主师认为别解脱戒是一个基础，必须要先受别解脱戒才能受菩萨戒。然后别解脱戒跟三皈依是基础，有这两个基础才能受菩萨戒。那当然你今天要受出家戒的话，不一定要先受这个出家戒，或许呢不一定要先受居士戒才能受出家戒，但是也必须要受8戒，或者是有些人持戒是1个戒、2个戒或3个戒，比如说不杀、不盗、不淫、不行不酒等等，或者是说光是说不行淫等等而成为一个清净的修行者。但是如果说我们要受菩萨戒的话，我们必须要先受别解脱戒，或者是三皈依以及三皈依，那才能够这样子受。或许唯心或唯识学派或者中观学者不见得这样讲，但是吉田松公主师觉得说，一定认为要先受别解脱戒及三皈依戒，才能够受菩萨戒。
타르바당 탐진 쳔베 바르도 쳔베 쳔바 탐 치주 쳔베 만남 가다 냠베 숨제 넘제 대와단데 동에다 차 뉴도 라나메바 양타와 조베 창추름 보죠 토바치카스네 계저 손돌도바이나 소솔라 네바 칭게게 드라오인다 펜단게게 조보이나인다 돈나 탐제데 산제기 고마 토바징이다 지 육토바지 산제기 고마 톱토바징이 지기 삼베게 탐자지라 멤버 창주게 샘숨비르와 저 두지치모나 진천도 멤버 창주게 샘세 되지래 근데 주바 창주게 샘세인도 전에 디체도 소용와 상마제게 버도 룽아예수 개와라고 마시에 버도 룽아예수 개와라고 뒤들에는 존데 니마 상타쯤지 버도 룽아예수 개와라고 송바래 다들라 샘숨스는 지된 송고 근데 송용도 남주 감범도 전화요 샘숨세야지 가르스는 말씀제들 샘숨이요래 이 가르스나 다 단지 멤버스인지 나신 징에 선진 담지 상지기 공방 토바지 지긴 스나 담제 지구기 내가 된 독도 말와 디인도 전에 디체도 산이님만 마셔 보던 개와 두긴 세안로 네 나 지신 소위 보던 개와 두긴 세안로 나 산지기 공방 못 보던 개와 두긴 소안로 다 텐데기 삼땅도 전에 되게 같은 거잖아 주바 창조게 샘서야 장로 봐 어떻게 지그래 나 텐데기 주바 창조선 그 돈바 텔라 데네 카시에게 손인데 자긴 개바 카시에 열에 손겠는데 난조 소소지고 값수 주바 창조선데 난조 줄을 제투 말해스 난조 줄라 멤버 창조게 샘데 마도 제에스 손겨래 주바 창조게 샘데 사톱차네 다 지금 파바차이 안에 근데 창조게 샘데 주바 샘지 무슨 차도 그래 근데 손게 종아랬다 다 디인도 자는 단단되는 지된 송을 가르쳐 거였으나 때 말해스 나랑도 소소해지고 있나양 주바 창조겠으면 줄을 제투그레스 주바에게 너무 줄을 제투그레스 근데 주바에게 너무 줄을 내 초그레스 대지도 자는 멤버 창조겠으면 아주 제투그 초그레 주바 창조겠으면 먼저 줄을 제그레 디인도 자네 근데 제 오다 아주 줄은 주바스면 제그 말해서 양도 근데 그게 내수양 다 같이 말해스 대지도산에 소수 찌올라양 주베그 nomade 찌기르다 대지도산에 먼저 멤버 창조조도 sem지 되는 주바 창조선 dom발레 근데게 라바텔라 네 강도도 랍고레 세야 대송바레
第三季，凡夫众生一生行心戒，各种皆可成为行心戒。
Now, the third verses of the vital point of the Bodhisattva vows. The vows of engaging bodhicitta also arise in ordinary being. And what it means is like there are like two different kind of the bodhicitta. One is the aspiration bodhicitta, and one is like engaging the bodhicitta. And sometimes there comes in three categories, like aspiration bodhicitta, engaging bodhicitta, and the ultimate bodhicitta, and so forth. So usually when we talk about it, Jiddhism can classify it into three different categories. Like when you talk about the all mother, one who hates me, or one who obstruct me on the path to the liberation, all who are my enemies or my near and dear one, also all attain. So when we have this kind of aspiration, this is known as the kind of the aspiration bodhicitta. And also then in order for that, I'm practicing this, I'll practice this one tomorrow until the sunshine, or until my life is finished, or until I attain the Buddhahood. This is known as making a promise or commitment. So this means this is actually engaging there. So, and Lord Jigten stated that these two, this is one is aspiration, and the other one is the engagement of the bodhisattva practice, the practice of bodhicitta. And in some of the scholars, the Indian scholar as well as Tibet, also, they said that the aspiration bodhicitta is not possible for the ordinary beings. It is only possible when you come to such kind of stage, like when you become an Arya, or when you attain the first bhumi, who can directly view the emptiness. So that's the direct bhumi. That's known as the Bhagwan, means the Arya. So, but whereas for the individual being, the engagement of bodhicitta engagement is not possible. Only the possibility only for the individual being is like aspiration bodhicitta. But somehow Lord Jigten stated that it is not true. The engagement bodhicitta can be possible for this, for the ordinary sentient beings, ordinary beings also, it's possible. It is like kind of, if you really practice it, and if you really take it into account and do the practice through the right direction and right execution, it's possible for even for the individual or ordinary beings to have the engagement bodhicitta. So therefore we should practice accordingly as it is stated in the scriptures or texts.
那么在这个第三季，再一次凡夫众生一生行心戒。那么我们一般来讲说菩提心有行菩提心跟愿菩提心，也有人讲三种层次以及最后的究竟菩提心。那么在吉田松公主是讲我们一般我们这个愿菩提心指的是什么？也比如说愿对无愤恨己的人、伤害之邪魔以及一切阻断我解脱的正遍智者为主之等虚空一切如母众生。当我们发这个愿呢，就是一种愿菩提心。接下来我们一开始念的这个皈依发心文，有的时候也会有这个行菩提心的愿文，是故直至正德佛果身口意三行善，直至死亡身口意三行善，从今直至明日此时身口意三行善。那这个就是行菩提心的愿文。那么在印度或藏人这个西藏人的一些学者呢，会讲到说，对于凡夫来讲呢，行菩提心 是不容易达到的，必须要是证得初地菩萨或者是圣者，好，那个小乘的圣者，比如说阿罗汉等等的，才能够真正的做到行菩提心。但是吉天松公祖师却不同意这种看法。他们认为说，行菩提心对凡夫也是有可能的，所以如果我们真正的这个修持来依照这个说法规则来修持，而有一个正确的修持的话，那么这可能是可以做到行菩提心的。所以即使对于凡夫的我们，还是要努力的依照这个来做。
텐데기 심 대단 레베기 룽아기 개와 용수 저와데 주바심지기 너무 차대기로와 티인도 전에 근데 다단데 소소지 올라양 요즘 찌그레스 디도는 되는데 시나와래 다 디된다데 카세워서야 지도 타는데 디워드나 도송 딜레도와 카세 지바데 찌르기지정 주베도만 줄 세야 대차르데
So the reason why he stated is that, for example, one reason is that even the Shantideva, he stated in his Bodhicharya for the sake of sentient beings, we practice it. For example, if we first aspire or if we have a kind of inspiration or aspire to benefit the sentient beings, then this is known as making a promise, which is kind of the aspirational bodhicitta. But whereas when we actually engage into the practice, then this is known as the engagement bodhicitta. What he said is, for example, if you wish to go to somewhere else in some place, then the first wish is kind of the aspiration bodhicitta. But when you are actually going there, when you put into practice or when you put effort actually walking there, then this is known as the engagement bodhicitta. For example, for the benefit of the sentient beings, then may I attain Buddhahood if we inspire this kind of motivation, and we do taking refuge and also the inspiration, then this is known as kind of aspirational bodhicitta. And also you do prayers, and sometimes after that you also make a giving, generosity, and such kind of activities depending on your body and the voice or your speech. All the activities comes from these, which was engaged into these, are known as the engagement bodhicitta. So therefore, it is in the fourth verses, it also stated that all kind of virtue turns into the vows of engagement, engaging bodhicitta. This is a kind of complementary or supplementary for the third verses, third Vajra verses.
第三季呢，凡夫众生一生行心戒；第四季是各种皆可成为行心戒；第四季是在补充第三季的。那个原因呢，是说在吉天菩萨里面讲到的《入菩萨行论》有讲到说，如果说会发愿为利有情众生的话，这是一种誓言，也是一种祈愿，这是属于信愿菩提心的部分。那我们自己真正的采取行动来做，这就是属于行菩提心的。比如说我们今天想要去一个地方去，那么我们先要有一种想法，这个发念，就是我要去那里，那这就是属于愿的部分。等到真正的采取行动要去那里了，或者到了那里，这就是行的部分。当我们发愿为利有情愿成佛，或者是来受皈依，或者行这个行种种这个 就是我们首先在内心要发愿，再加上我们真正的行动，这就是行。所以这个再来做种种善行，比如说从身体或言语做的一些行业、一些善行，比如说布施等等的。那么真正的这个行动就是属于行菩提心。所以呢，这个第4季是补充第3季的。第3季凡夫众生亦生行心戒，第4各种皆可成为行心戒。所以这边提到的就是，我想应该是说有愿菩提心跟行菩提心2个层次。
소타르게 돈방문에 양타반 타르투바디 산제게 마도 배치 가보 인지로와 가보로와 배치 랑두르기 내 십신 차와데 산제게 마도 칭게 매와되네 디인도 전에 산제게 마도 랑두르기 내 타지 차와 투글란 첸통게 문도와 디난신도 단답배나 특징이 감는 주바심지기 돈배기 니베게 초 차상파 매와 차 조tum게 레베게 초 창마 룹통게 선진게 된 제세 제당바 지통게 산제 모두 배지 카보로와 디 인두잔에 때니 인지 면적인 주바심지기 돈바세 인두잔에 근데 차상 지통된지 인구 말에스 가에서는 저랑 되니 티과 진부기 장춤 줘도 셈제네 어쨌든 셈제들은 중 특징이 심지들 니송거로와 당 나랑 손으로 지 나랑 수선에 번 나도 지나 나는 주 대화 진부 심지에서도 전에지 심지다 뭐가 일을 집었점 심지지래 되게 빼들라는 준들의 송도 용기 배차든 주나라 불신여로와 나도 불엄기신 되기 빡바당 불엄기신기 난게 힘분이여로와 나 불엄기신기 빡바대서는 인간 못 돼서 여로와 이내야 불응신기 난게 행복이 얼마 나신지 바바들 요마와 베티 나신 전도 전에 나조지다 야나 라마 게웨신이게 가든라 때네 야나지 심쟁기 동행 통화라 때네 나조 오다 심쟁 탐제 산지기 공부 토바 지구도 삼백이 심수르지는 유지로 제 초로와 덴도들라 양고지 이승가모 유대바 나신로와 이는 문내기지 생각 초와 tempo인 게데다 개마와 이나다데 제발 요마라 될 장주게 섬섬행 다 조여때 장주게 섬스 숭구여래 다 강들이야 된대기 섬지 제네 배나 녜드니지다 섬제 우방 감성 그룹의 동해 용된게 섬제인데 남 동해들의 탈베 산지게 공방나 지금 그대가 지금 삼백이 섬게나는 문에지 초라이가 지기 돈에 담자지 제 디 담자디 제철이 제라 드니 양지 디 섬로 대단 빼 가와 차야기 샤당 슈타 본다고 당 야나 섬제나 빼지 갈수그래 제와 매백이 섬로지 마제와 이나 저런 단지 당부기 섬 대당 데르톤에 다 저런 니모 디낭라 르기 돈에 짐바페나지 컵도 꾸바 잠지 나와 있나야 칸데 되네 많은 주지 마도 말어와 있나야 저런 셈되기 누발라 때네 주버심지기 돈배기 냠내는 로투그레스 마도 주버심지기 돈배 냠내서도 차상화지 인공 말레스 지릭지장 송도와 저런 개와 최종 간들다지 사바이나양 셈되는 데용도 자네 때네 주버심지기 냠내는 로레스 텔레 체버스 개요 말레스 오 개와 침보사나 주버심지기 냠내는 로야 개와 충충적 사바이나 주바선지기 냠내는 먼저 같은데 이게 제벌게 연구 말에 심되게 지 센토바이나 개와 체중 간진다지 있나야 어더니 전주 선배 돈배기 냠내는 루그레스야 대송바다
And why it is stated is that, for example, some scholars, some practitioners, they think that engagement, the vows, bodhicitta engagement bodhicitta is difficult. Why? Because in the training of the the greater vessel, greater vehicle, in terms of the practice of the the bodhicitta, it is stated that we should possess abandonment of all the mistakes and accomplishment of all the virtues, and also who could able to fulfill the wishes of all sentient beings. These 3 points. First, to abandonment of all the mistakes, non-virtues, and also the accomplishment of all the virtues, deeds, and also the third one is to fulfill the wishes of all the other sentient beings. So then Lord Jigdan stated that if that is the case, then it's not possible, because only the person who could be able to abandon all the mistakes, acquire all the knowledge and wisdom and the virtues, and to fulfill the wishes of sentient beings is the only one that is the Buddha. So it's not possible for person other than Buddha, it's not possible that. So therefore, Lord Jidasumil said it is possible that, like, for example, if you couldn't do all the practices or all the good things or good deed, but at least having the genuine kind of inspiration or genuine sort of like one's own motivation. For example, like a kind of sugarcane and sugarcane tree. If you eat the skin of the sugarcane tree, there is some kind of taste there, the sweetness there. It is actually not same as the inner, the sugarcane, the stem, but somehow even for its the skin, when you peel the skin and if you try to taste it, you can feel some extent of some level of the taste there. So therefore, what the Jigdan Sungin stated is that after having the teachings and advice from one's own guru, or if you see some sentient beings suffering, and because of that, you have a strong sense of motivation to help other sentient beings. And at the same time, with this kind of motivation, if you try to do some kind of in order to attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings, if you have these kind of things in your mind, and if you don't do like kind of anger or hatred, and if you don't mix up with all this anger and hatred, but at the same time with this kind of motivation to help other sentient beings in order to attain Buddhahood, then even if you give a kind of needle and thread, a small thing like giving a needle and thread offering, or just like chanting the Mani mantra, or like doing at least a small kind of virtuous acts, then Lord Jigdan Sungin confirms that even if you do a small kind of virtuous actions with having a motivation of benefiting other sentient beings, then it could come under the category of like boss engaging the bodhicitta. So this is how he confirms the engagement of bodhicitta for the individuals being.
那么为什么吉天松公主是这样讲呢？就是有些行者认为说，我们要做到行菩提心是很不容易的。怎么说？因为在大乘的训练，我们所谓的菩提心呢，我们要诸恶莫作，众善奉行，然后满众生愿。那吉天松公主是会提到说，对的，如果说你的标准是这样子的话，凡夫是不可能的，因为只有佛陀才可能不去舍一切恶，行一切善，满一切愿。那一般凡夫是做不到的，但是吉天松公主是讲到说，即使我们没有办法行一切善，但是如果我们有真诚的发心来行善，那这就有比说那个我们吃那个蔗糖的那个甘蔗树，这个蔗糖的树也一样。如果说当然我们知道这个树的这个皮是跟这个糖纯粹的糖是不能相比的，但是皮这个也是有一些许的甜味，所以吉天松公主师的 讲法是说，当我们得到的上师的法教之后，如果见到众生苦而想要帮助他们解除痛苦的这种发心，然后并且在内心有一种为利有情愿成佛的这个愿心，然后我们自己尽量不产生这个嗔恨心，能够做出一些利他的这个行为，以便他们能够成佛。在这种的条件之下，如果我们给予他一点点的供养啊、布施，或者修一点点的法行、一点点的善啊，来利益众生，这个都可以算是说行菩提心的。所以这个是吉田颂公祖师的看法。
So, for example, like even, if you look at the fire, if you put a firewood in the fire, it will burn down and make it into ashes. Even if you put a cow down, it will burn. It will burn the fire, and then it will become like ashes. And even for the food stuff, like eating food, whatever the stuffs, you put in the fire, because the fire has a burning nature, then it can burn down and make it as ashes. It's their power. In the same way, if we have bodhicitta in our mind and motivation of bodhicitta, and since the bodhicitta itself is very powerful, whatever the activities, whatever the deeds we do from our body and speech, even the small kind of the virtuous actions, all could go into the practice of engagement of bodhicitta. So it is because of the power of the bodhicitta. If you have a power, if it is accompanied, associated with the bodhicitta, then all kind of the virtuous action, whether it's small or big, doesn't matter. Even the smallest of the smallest virtuous actions become the bodhicitta of engagement. So that's why I think any kind of virtuous stance and the vows of engagement, bodhicitta, is actually taken into this kind of consideration. So today we can stop.
那么比如说举个例子，如果我们看火的话，把那个柴火放到火中就会烧成灰，甚至把食物啊或者牛等等的把它放到火中去烧的话，都会烧完化成灰，因为这就是火的这个威力。同样的，如果我们内心有菩提心的话，这样的发心，因为菩提心它本身也具有大威力，所以我们身体的造作、言语的行为所讲的呢的一些些微的善都可以化成行菩提心的一个部分。所以如果说我们跟菩提心所做行所做所说都跟菩提相连结的话，那么一点点小的行动就可以说是行菩提心。所以呢，一切善行应该要对一切善行我们应该要如此的了解。今天就讲到这里，回向以此功德得证一切界，击败一切过患之敌众，生老病死杂乱诸波涛，轮回大海，愿度诸众生。祈求上师贵体圣妙康，祈求尊生寿命吉长久，祈求事业旗帜圆满胜，愿得无离上师其加持。犹如文殊勇士大智慧，复是普贤菩萨如是行。随喜彼等一切我学习此功德等一切尽回向。佛陀三身得正之加持，法性不变真谛之加持，深切真故积极之加持，如是回向，其愿成就。以我以及一切有情众生世所积善愿以佛性，愿我于等虚空诸众生速证无相正等觉妙宝，所自遍照遍智法之尊，缘起借助自在自共八神千八之教法片有记讲修，愿由闻思修持之。殊胜菩提心妙宝，未生起者愿生起，已生起者亦不退，其愿辗转更增上。 谢谢各位，明天同一时间，星期三洛杉矶早上7点25开播，亚洲10点25开播。感谢堪千堪博以及一切的这个口译者，越南苏俄文、这个中文，以及德文明天同一时间见，谢谢各位。
Thank you so much, Khenchen Puchala. Thank you so much, Khenpola.
Thank you, Khenpola. Thank you, everyone.